Start.
Welcome to the Ravenswood City School District Regular Board Meeting of May 25th, 2023. The board meeting is called to order at 6:33 p.m. So I will begin with roll call. Trustee Alexander. I will come back to Trustee Alexander. Okay. Trustee Shabomihin here. Trustee Latu.
Present.
Trustee Nunez.
Present.
Trustee Alexander.
Present.
And I myself, Jenny Bloom, am present. We have quorum. We will move on to item number 2, approval of the agenda. Do we have any questions or comments regarding the agenda? No, as I see none, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Through the chair, I moved, before we go to the vote, I would like to pull item 7A.
Yes, so thank you. So now I will make a motion, entertain a motion to approve the agenda with item 7A pulled.
Through the chair, I move to approve the agenda.
Do I have a second? Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We will now move on to closed session. Do we have any members of the public who would like to address anything that is agendized for closed session? As I see none, I will adjourn to closed session at 6:35 p.m.
Units that have enhanced air purification.
Welcome back. We will reconvene open session at 7:31. So the report for action taken out of closed session. So item number 3A, the board voted 5-0 to approve initiation of dismissal procedures of a certificated employee. For item number 3B, there was discussion and no action was taken. We will now move on to item number 6, which is from the floor. If we have any public speakers, now is the time to speak. Do we have any members of the public who would like to address something that is not agendized? This is the time to do so.
Through the chair, we have one speaker, Mr. Leland.
You.
Oh, good afternoon, all. Superintendent. Ms. Bloom, Leland Francois, resident and business proprietor of Ravenswood Garden Kits Products. I passed out some hard copy to you so you can. I believe that pictures can tell a story of 1,000 words. And what I've consolidated there is about 30 years of history research. I'm a developer and agriculturist. Originally came to this place that become known as East Palo Alto under the umbrella of the East Palo Alto Historical and Agricultural Society. Trevor Burrows, he's the founder. This is on about 1990. And since then, I went on to develop some ideas of my own that I think will fit within Ravenswood, California school district, the 150-year-old community. Our city, community, and school district, we've got to kind of balance things out historically because we're somewhat detached. What I would like to do, getting back to the products I've developed, they're very unique. Some of them have been dispatched, I should say, or designed for the United Nations. And one of my products have been issued a procurement number of 120512. And this is a real pursuit because Ravenswood is historically connected to the UN 1945 through 1948. And it goes a lot deeper than that. We go back to George Washington Carver, one of the original African-American agriculturists. He came through California about 100 years ago. He passed in 1943. But what I need to say, I would like to make a presentation, a special presentation at the next board meeting
Thank you, sir.
to kind of describe exactly what's going on with me and Ravenswood Garden Kits Products.
Thank you for your comments. I'm sorry, the
Just-
time is up.
I
We
realize that. I really-
we are only able to
I-
take comment
I
for the
understand that.
right amount of
I
time.
really do. And I'm asking just a special accommodation for the next board meeting. I would like to hold a meeting on the
Thank-
outside.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
your
sir. 10 minutes.
comments. Thank you for your comments.
And
I will have to move on because that is as much time as we are allotted to give. And
I would really
as
appreciate.
a board, we are not able to directly
Well,
address
it's under
items
your-
that are
it's
not
under your discretion,
agendized.
ma'am.
Thank you,
could-
sir.
You could extend
Thank-
or you could not. And I'm asking you, just as a polite favor,
We-
if I may
we are not-
complete what I had to say. It's nothing personal. I
I,
haven't been here in a long time.
thank you, sir. Thank you for
Yes,
your
ma'am.
comments. I'm sorry, we are not able to extend.
Right.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Chair.
Francois.
Through
Thank
the
you.
chair, sir, you can follow up with Superintendent Sudaria after this.
I'm okay. My contact information is there.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your comments.
Through the
Alright.
chair, there's no more speakers.
Thank you very much. We will move on to item number 7. So I will entertain a motion for item number 7A, the consideration to approve May 11th, 2023 regular board meeting minutes. Because we had to pull, this is the item that is pulled, item number 7A.
I'll make a motion to approve item 7A.
I'll second.
All in favor, please say aye. All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. And
Through the
sorry,
chair, I abstain.
yes. With Mele Latu abstaining because she was absent. Thank you. I will now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with item number 7A pulled.
Through the chair, I move to approve the consent agenda item 7.
I second. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We'll move on to the next item, which is item number 8, the update on early childhood options and strategies.
Good evening, trustees. Over the last couple of years, we've been working on really expanding access to early childhood across the community. We know what a huge priority that is, not just for this district, but this board. We've been pleased to add seats in various places through expanded partnerships. We've also been just thinking bigger picture. And as our parcel tax is expiring in 2 years, we thought it was a chance to kind of explore some bigger picture options about some space that we can use wrapping up the middle school, as well as thinking about addressing some of our funding shortage in the space. I'm pleased to present Joy Shen tonight, who's going to walk through a presentation exploring some of those options and starting us down potentially down a path where we could really make a very significant dent in closing the early childhood seat shortage in our community.
Good evening. Very excited to share with the board today our vision for early childhood education in Ravenswood and an initial proposal for how we might realize that vision. When we think about the kind of community and experience we want to create in Ravenswood, we envision a world in which every district student from the time they are born has access to a high quality education. As the board knows, ensuring students' educational health is the core focus of our strategic plan and all the work that we do. At the same time, we recognize that a child's development begins long before they step foot into one of our TK or kinder classrooms. Early childhood education is critical for preparing Ravenswood students for school and beyond. And it is just as important in supporting our families and community members as well. We believe that increasing access and quality to of early childhood programs is both a moral and strategic imperative for the district. There's a strong community of existing programs, including our TK classrooms, as well as several center and home-based programs. But even with all of those, the county estimates that there's a shortage of about 500 seats for early childhood in Ravenswood. And over 70% of that is in the infant and toddler space. Over the last several months, we've had conversations with a number of providers in our community, and we've identified 2 key drivers of the early childhood shortage in Ravenswood. The first is around funding. There is a funding gap where current funding streams are not sufficient to cover the cost of running quality programs. And there is a facilities gap where providers do not currently have enough physical space to open the classrooms and seats needed for our district's children. To strive towards our vision of guaranteeing quality education for all students from birth, we would like to propose some solutions to help close the funding and facilities gap. From a funding perspective, using our taxing authority as a district to consider levying a parcel tax, which, if passed by voters, could help close the funding gap. And on the facility side, we've identified space that is not used by the district today, where we could build an early childhood facility with the support of philanthropy. This would be a 2 to 3 year long process to address facility and funding needs, during which time we would work to secure programming. So quickly jumping through the context and needs here. As we've touched on already, access to quality early childhood is invaluable for our children, our families, and the Ravenswood community at large. And we have already made early childhood an important part of our strategy and ongoing work this year. We've enlisted an early childhood lead. We've expanded our TK program and we'll have 4 classrooms open this fall. We've focused on workforce development initiatives, and we've also continued our partnerships with a number of providers running programs at our sites. All of this in support of our vision for district students. But even with all of this work, there is still a gap in available seats, as you can see in the far right column of this chart. And this is especially pronounced for our infants and toddlers in Ravenswood, which is in the dark red. As we've mentioned before, the two main constraints that we consistently hear from early childhood programs is around funding and facilities. There's a structural funding gap today in early childhood education, where the combination of tuition and public subsidies is not enough to operate a program, and especially a quality program that is affordable to all members of our community. Among other issues, this exacerbates the staffing shortages that we've seen. And this is especially true for infants and toddlers, which are our highest need group, but also the group that requires higher staffing ratios. On the facility side, we've heard from multiple providers that they have waitlists for their program, but not enough space to expand. And the existing facilities are often small and past their planned lifespan, with only about 3 new early childhood classrooms built in Ravenswood in the last decade. These are 2 big structural challenges faced by early childhood providers everywhere, but they're also challenges that we as a district are particularly well positioned to tackle. Moving on into our possible solutions, we'd like to first touch on the facility proposal. If you look on this slide, you'll see our CCRMS middle school site map. And on the north side of the site, there's about 2 acres of land that is not used, even once all the completion of the construction. And this is an opportunity to build a new early childhood facility that would be funded by one-time philanthropy and grants. On the funding side, we can explore raising supplemental parcel tax revenues to close the early childhood funding gap. And depending on the level of public support, there are options for kind of the scope and magnitude of this funding. The first option would be to fund all of the program operations within the newly constructed early childhood center. And option 2 is what it would take to completely close the funding gap for all students in Ravenswood. This would allow the district to help subsidize all 1,000 or so students under 5 across the district attending any early childhood program. As we think about renewing the district's parcel tax in the upcoming election season, we've already heard some great feedback from trustees on the potential impacts on that vote. And this is why we believe that polling the community will be an important next step for this process. As we've mentioned, because of the unique combination of our taxing authority and facility space, as well as our close partnership with the Ravenswood Education Foundation, we believe that the district is uniquely positioned to help tackle some of these structural problems in early childhood education locally. Looking at our next steps here, we believe that this is a journey. It will take between 2 and 3 years to really fully address both the funding and facility constraints we've identified. And we also know some of you have raised the question of why now. This is truthfully just the beginning of a long journey. Us deciding to take the first step immediately of polling the community to understand voters, understand what the community wants, is just taking that first step. And then over the next several years, there will be kind of phased planning, program design, and construction, all of which will build on each other based on the information that we glean. So currently, we are just proposing embarking upon this journey as a focus area that will be of tremendous impact potentially to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Through the chair, I have a couple questions. Thank you. I want to make sure first of all, thank you for the presentation. This is a really exciting potential initiative. It's something that I think a lot of us care about as we care about the folks in this community. So definitely care about the babies of the babies, the early young ones and early childhood, I cannot talk, early childhood education. I have a question about the cost for the project, which is about $30,000. And that is that's the cost of the research, right? To get a pulse of like what people need and want. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. The next item, we're proposing partnering with Top 3 for the
Gotcha.
$30,000.
Okay, so maybe I shouldn't talk about that yet. But I'm asking that because it relates to a concern here, which is my concern. While I do think this is really exciting, I'm concerned, and I spoke with the superintendent about this, so this isn't that new, but my concern is that I'm wondering about how this endeavor might potentially take us from very significant actions and initiatives that we are pursuing currently and in the future towards the students that we have now, our TK through 8th graders. And so understanding that we are, making great changes and got high expectations of ourselves and the work we're doing. I also understand that there's a lot more work, right, in this journey. And so I'm trying to understand how we might go about pursuing this excellent, ECE program while also balancing that with what we're trying to produce with the students we have. And so it's just a concern. I'm not saying it's impossible, not saying we can't do it, not saying I'm, not for it, but it is a concern. And with that, then I'm also then concerned about the next item, which I'll wait. And that's like, do we need to put a cost of $30,000 to do a survey of if the community is interested in something we're not sure we're going to pursue yet? Yeah, I'll stop there and wait.
I don't know if that's a rhetorical question or if I need to respond, but in regards to the funding for item 8A, we can discuss that when we present it. But in regards to your concerns, they're legitimate concerns. We want to stay focused on main goals that will allow us to be able to drive outcomes for our students that we are currently serving. We do see a benefit, as was highlighted, to provide early childhood education to children so that we better prepare them and have them be more successful in school. We know this is going to be a challenge. It's something that's pretty big vision. And we're willing to at least scope the work and see what are the possibilities and interests too of the community. But we also see it as a possibility to increase enrollment in Ravenswood. We are the conveners of educators in this community, and we want to be able to support our children's academic outcomes and progress from early childhood through 8th grade, so they are successful in high school career,
And through
college
the
and
chair,
career.
just to be clear, no one needs
Absolutely.
to sell me on, the benefits of early childhood education for people in the district, as you know. So I think the conversation for me is more around the practicality and how do you do it and like what does it look like in strategic priorities and action. Like how do we drive both of these big initiatives at the same time? So it's not about the sale. I get it. So it's like, how do we do it? And how do we do it again with excellence and do it very well?
Mhm.
I think I'm fairly practical, and one way I'm thinking about this I agree with, I think, pretty much everything that you've said, I think, so far. I think one thing that I'm thinking about with regards to the polling is we're kind of already at a point in the cycle where it makes sense to start doing some polling for our parcel tax. We can go sort of get multiple bites at the apple, so to speak. So even though it doesn't expire this upcoming cycle, it expires the next cycle. If we go out now and ask the community to approve it and they say no, we have another chance. If we wait a couple of years, we obviously lose that chance. So one thing we're trying to understand with this polling, which is the same cost as the polling for the last bond measure, it's kind of what I think polling our community to some extent costs, which I think we would do for the parcel tax kind of regardless, is this amount and sort of asking whether or not this makes sense to do through this parcel tax or not. And if there is community appetite for it. If there's not, this isn't really a viable path regardless of what the superintendent and I may think, right? So part of our thought is, one, there's not really any additional costs to what we would do just in terms of maintaining that parcel tax anyway. And so to some extent, it's a little bit of a free option to explore. It's not totally free, but pretty close to free.
$30,000.
Sorry, I meant that in the sense that we were already going to pay that $30,000 when we were doing the parcel tax renewal anyway. So adding on additional questions about this option has no additional cost relative to what we would have done sort of normally.
Through the chair, I have a couple of questions. So you were highlighting how our current parcel tax is expiring in 2 years. Roughly off the top of your mind, how much have we actually received from that parcel tax?
We received a little bit over $1 million a year for that parcel tax.
A little million. Does our parcel, because I know our bonds affect the city's ability to go for bonds. Our parcel tax will not affect the city's ability
That's
to
correct.
eventually go out for a parcel tax. So this is completely separate.
And our understanding of the bonding limit also has not affected the city's bonding capacity either.
And for this parcel tax, it will solely go for facilities or PCE.
No, sorry, our parcel tax is for a general fund use.
Okay.
Which is $1 million of unrestricted. We're exploring adding on an early childhood component to the parcel tax. So it would maintain our existing funding and then add on a little bit focused on early childhood.
And who's the demographic that this parcel tax will affect?
It depends how it's structured. It could affect and benefit, obviously it would benefit people with young children or people planning to have young children in our community, as well as future Ravenswood students. Who it would affect depends a little bit on how the tax is structured, but it would be through the entire Ravenswood community.
So
Similar to the bond.
So would it be similar to East Palo Alto and Bellhaven?
Yes.
That's it for me for now.
Through the chair? Yes. So in developing these ECE programs, or building them, would this be providing free childcare or subsidized childcare or for pay childcare or a combination thereof?
It's a great question. I think probably a combination thereof. I think to some extent, it depends on how much we want to provide. There's obviously existing state funds for childcare that are available for some folks, but not for everyone, right? And so I think it's a question of how much does the community want to raise for this initiative? How much does the board want to try to go after? And seeing when that sort of shakes out, what can we actually provide to subsidize? The goal would be for some folks in our community for this to be closing that gap between what state funds currently provide and what it actually costs to run a program. But for some folks who are making really good money, this isn't going to cover sort of the full cost of childcare, and they may still be, they almost certainly would still be expected to pay some tuition.
Through the chair. Yes. This is just really exciting. I should have waited to have kids until this is all through. But and I know it's a very future conversation, but as someone who is currently looking through childcare and doesn't qualify, but I still can't afford it. In future conversations, we should consider the cost of living here and how wages are different than what the state thinks that we should be making. That way we can actually support families who are like the lower half of that middle class and make it actually affordable.
Through the chair, I have one more
Yes.
question. What is the term of this parcel tax length? Is it 10 years?
There's no a fixed term. We can set that as part of something we would survey. So I believe the last term was for 8 years, but it could be, I think 1 year could be forever. There's actually no prescribed time frame for the parcel tax.
Okay.
Any other
Some
questions?
neighboring communities have actually done a forever parcel tax.
I don't want to go into the forever aspect of it because our demographics financially continues to shift. So I would not be in favor of something like that, but that's a conversation down the road.
Just to ask a question, for the timeline, so and I know you're going to talk about the survey soon, but it would be to do the survey and then to put this on the 2024 election cycle. Is that the hope? And then if we need to do it again in the 2026?
There's a number of elections upcoming sort of with these cycles. So there's, I'd say the series of elections associated with 2024. So that's the Democratic primary, the Republican primary season, general election. I believe there's actually a regularly scheduled election in early 2025. Then there's also the 2026 election. So there's a series of chances. One of the things that we found out with the bond survey last time is which of those cycles would have people sort of most in support of an idea like this. So we can kind of gauge, should the board again want to pursue this, the various options of various cycles. So the initial thought is to pursue 2024. That's just a general election, which historically brings out the most people, which generally tends to, on average, across the state, be supportive of initiatives like this. So we think, without having actually done any research on this, that would be the best time to target.
Thank you. Any other questions?
To the chair, I have more questions, but I know, again, we're not like diving deep for the like, where this isn't a vote to if we should do it or not. So I'll save the questions, but I'm just gonna say what I would like to see, because I'm having trouble conceptualizing how this funding or the annual costs of this, if it were to be approved, how it works in tandem with like our annual costs for current programs, and how do we, and current fundraising and the gap in fundraising now, with, other buildings and plans. And so it would be nice to have that conversation, which I imagine is coming, per the survey, per the, approval or not approval, but consideration for approval and all of that. But
I think that's right. I do think that the intent here is not for the district to operate this program. So that the intent is not for us to sort of enter into early childhood at this point in the planning, in the conceptual sort of ideation of this. We don't, we're focused, to your point, kind of on that TK to 8 space. We want to make that excellent. But we recognize that there's a lot of programs in the area that are running early childhood space that don't have what they need right now. And when those students come to us not fully prepared, it messes us up. It sets us back. And so our thought is we can help out our neighbors here. Should the community want to go forward with this? And that's kind of what we're trying to figure out. But should the community want to go forward with this, we think uniquely positioned to support them. Let's support them in getting up and running, knowing that benefits us, but not actually divert our management attention away from what we're trying to do best, which is TK. Again, a lot to figure out here, but that's sort of just our initial early thinking right now.
Thank you. I will now move on to item number 8A, correct? So, which is consideration to approve the agreement with FM3 Research.
And this is very much based upon the prior presentation. This is the same organization that we've been using for the last several cycles. We did bid this out last time. They were the most cost-effective surveying option. And as I mentioned prior to this, this is the likely same amount that we would pay should we choose or be likely to choose to pursue a parcel tax. So even if we weren't exploring this early childhood option, this is still something that we think we would be doing anyways to gauge public support for renewing our parcel tax. So we believe this is both a amount of money that we would likely spend in the due course of business to renew that parcel tax. We believe it is the most affordable option of the options that we've explored, and it's working with a firm that has a long history of tracking survey and a history of being plus or minus a percentage point or two in the last few elections. So we think it's quality, affordable, and something we would pay should we choose to renew that parcel tax.
Any questions or comments from the board? So I have a few, I guess, comments or clarifying comments. So this is something that we will do to renew a parcel tax at some point.
Sorry, there's no like legal obligation that we must do a survey before any kind of parcel tax renewal. I would just say that I don't know a time when we have gone out for an electoral issue without doing a survey in advance in the last 6 or 7 political issues. So I don't want to say we must, we certainly don't have to. I'm just saying that's been our path.
So in the past, I know when we had a bond subcommittee, the bond subcommittee got to review the survey, got to help design it, got to help have a conversation about what questions are on it and what questions continue to stay on it as we are doing this. So what does that look like for our board if we were to approve this motion today? Which subcommittee will be in conversation regarding this survey?
We could potentially form a new subcommittee.
Yeah, exactly. I would think we would,
What the purpose, I think we would very
for the
much like
direction of
to
the
have
board.
multiple trustees, just like we did with the bond oversight. Excuse me, the bond committee.
Okay.
We had envisioned a very similar process to the bond process.
Yes.
Okay, through the chair. I'm wondering about the pattern of consideration. So per previous bonds, did we come to some consensus about pursuing a bond before approving the survey or the bond? Just wondering about the order of things.
Don't recall. I do think the board, per sort of, I would say the usual board approach is there's a desire to kind of get some community input before making a formal decision to go forward. I would say the board was, let's call it generally supportive of the idea of a bond. I don't know whether that was officially established or not in advance of the survey. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm asking because I'm wondering because I still don't really know like how we feel about it, which may be what we're saying is we'll understand what we feel about it after we hear what others feel about it. But it feels kind of interesting for me to say, yes, use this money to pull when I'm unsure about how I feel about all the details or the details that we've been given or yet to just, figure out. I don't know, I feel like some dissonance.
I think that there was conversation. I believe there was a subcommittee maybe for the bond before we approved a survey. But at the same time, I think that there was a subcommittee to consider the bond and it wasn't an official bond, right? So it was to consider having a bond measure. So the question is do we need a subcommittee to consider a parcel tax or are we as a board wanting to consider pursuing a parcel tax? And with that, this would be the survey that we would do.
Through the chair.
Yes.
We are currently paying a parcel tax currently for Ravenswood, right?
That's correct.
And for how many more years are we paying that parcel tax?
2 years.
2 more years. So this would come up after that when it already expires. We're not double dipping parcel tax.
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
I am now confused.
So
And so
go ahead.
I guess my question is, were we already planning to do some type of survey in order to see whether we would be renewing the parcel tax that's going to expire in 2 years anyway? And the consideration right now is to see if we will tack on questions about ECE in those surveys that are already going to happen.
They're not necessarily, the board is sort of asking, I'd say, answering both questions. One, I think this is a natural time when we would consider extending the parcel tax. So this is a natural time for us to start that surveying work, which again, is not going to go out for several months. To then gauge community support. So over the next couple of months, we would work on the survey questions, kind of gauging what makes sense, identifying the possible path forward, then eventually launching the survey going out to the field. The survey would answer basically 2 questions. One, what support, if any, is there for the parcel tax by itself, just extending the parcel tax? And that we would want to know. Do we then want to target this upcoming November? Where even though we wouldn't double dip, to Trustee Alexander's point, we would set ourselves up to automatically extend when the next one expires. So be sort of ready to go for 2 years. Should that parcel tax fail? Bad, but we have another chance at it in 2026, right? If we wait until 2026, that's our only chance. We would then have to wait until 2028, and we would then have sort of a gap there. The second question, which is on that same survey, is there appetite for some kind of additional public support for early childhood? And part of the thinking is, if there's not, that kind of closes off the conversation. It basically says, this is it. There's might have been a good idea, might not have been, but either way, it doesn't totally matter. There's not a path to getting 2/3 of the vote for it. Let's stop exploring this and sort of cut that off now. And so we do think it's something we normally be doing with a parcel tax now anyway, and we're adding this on as sort of additional questions to that survey, which is sort of a de minimis additional cost.
For the chair, I am overall in support of a parcel tax overall. I don't think I'm ready to vote on the agreement with F3 research, because I think that there's still, I think, I don't really know what the tone is on this board, because what I'm hearing right now is like, we want to do a survey, we want to talk about early childhood development, but I don't want the early childhood development talk to be contingent on us having to get this parcel tax. Because I'm seeing that they're being tied together. And I don't know if I'm in agree. Is my perception wrong on this?
Not sure I fully understand your perception.
So like, when we're going out to ask the surveys, are we asking specific questions on, in general, saying that as a school board, we're going out for a parcel tax period? Or what is your interest around early childhood development? If this parcel tax get approved, you know, we could expand in early childhood development.
I think we would, again, I think there's a lot of important work to do around sculpting how the exact wording would go, but I imagine it'd be something like Ravenswood City School District is exploring a parcel tax at X dollars. Would you support this for general operations? Additionally, they're exploring a tax at X plus Y dollars that would include X dollars for general operations and Y dollars earmarked for early childhood. Should that be something you were asked to vote for? Would you be supportive of that?
Okay.
Right. And that would then help us say, everyone loves renewing the parcel tax. There's 97% support for that. But once you tack on early childhood, that support goes to 12%. Or it would say, oh, actually, people love both options, and it's 97 and it goes to 98, right? Or whatever it may be. So it would help us kind of understand whether or not this is a path. It is certainly by no means the only early childhood approach we're exploring. We added TK. We're partnering with different folks through leases and other sort of mechanisms to expand seats and expand care. So this is one avenue we're exploring, and really we're just trying to figure out, is it even a viable avenue? And if it's not, stop the conversation now.
Okay, I think that's a point. Is like, I don't want us to tack on any conversations and then the parcel tax does not get approved. And then there is a disappointment that, you know, we're not going to be able to supply this because you did not approve a parcel tax. And so I just want us to be very clear on what we're surveying, because the survey is going to be the front runner of what's to come, right? And so we want to make sure that if we're asking for what the vibe of the community is, we're not getting people, I don't know, because I'm a bit confused by it. So if I'm confused by it, I imagine that some community members might also get confused in the language.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to what President Bloom said, I think it would be a good option if there was a subcommittee that started having these conversations, while the superintendent also works in parallel with communicating to the board on whether this parcel tax is right now is the go.
Part of this contract is similar to like an architectural contract, where the the pollster looks for a contract to kind of begin sitting at the table with us, right? So they're there to kind of help guide those questions and help us think about how to craft it, which I think, and Trustee Bloom, you can vouch for this or not, but I think was a helpful forcing mechanism for the bond committee to move along by sort of exploring what exactly that message we would be calling people with. Because I think right now, to your point, it is a little bit confused. And that's kind of why we want to bring in someone who specializes in messaging, both to help us craft that message and also for us to confirm aspects of it. So this is a little bit of a like, get that ball rolling. That's sort of what the contract does here, is kind of get that ball sort of underway. But the survey itself would not actually go out for several months.
No, I hear you, but through the chair, the board is the one that purchases the ball for the school board. And so I think it's important that the board, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the board, I'm speaking on behalf of me as a trustee, is that are we going to purchase the ball? Is this the direction that we're going?
So I think that the question, so I think that there are two considerations here. So I think the first thing is that we want to know which comes first. Do we all agree we should renew a parcel tax and then we should do this survey? Or do we want to do this survey and then do we want to decide, do we all agree to renew the parcel tax? So I think that the survey will come. It just depends on which place we want to put it in. And I think that when we say yes to this survey, then we're starting to get that process going, right? We're starting to get the process going to see if the parcel tax is the right choice for us moving forward. And so I think that that's what this survey is supposed to do. I don't think that this survey is going to only be about early childhood education. As Mr. Eager stated, I think it's going to have both. And it's kind of, yes, it's to get the information to know what we're going to put out there for messaging. We could possibly just should we just move to get a little bit more information and consensus from the board in one-on-ones before we decide on this?
Can I just have a question of clarity? If the survey is simply exploring appetite and not declaring that we're pursuing a parcel for ECE, but it is to survey the community about their interest in supporting a parcel tax, that would inform the trustees about how to proceed on whether we want to pursue a parcel tax or not. So if the survey is to explore only, and we can message that very clearly, there's an opportunity to get engaged, to get feedback immediately, directly from voters about their interest in support of a parcel tax or not, without us committing to a parcel tax. And so that is why I would like to maybe pursue the board to consider still to take action if there is consensus.
Through the chair,
Mm-hmm.
which purse would the $30,000 to pay for this come from? Is that from general funds? Do we have this $30,000 earmarked somewhere for possible surveys? I mean, that's a lot of money. It's $100 per survey. Basically, if they're surveying 300 people.
We have it both sort of set aside in the budget for early next year as a thing we were likely to explore as part of the sort of overall bond work, or excuse me, overall parcel tax renewal, which we was just about. There also is interest in philanthropically supporting this, so I think that's something we could also, if that I think tilted the board one way or another, I am reasonably confident we would be likely to get that.
I just hate for us to spend $30,000 of early childhood money just to find out we don't want early childhood. So just want to make sure that it's this money.
It's not one.
Right.
Was there another comment?
Through the chair, yes, thank you. A question. I'm hearing what you're saying, Superintendent Zadaria, and I'm wondering, I like the idea, but then I'm wondering though, do you need the clarity, right, in order to do the survey, right? So if you're coming to me as a resident and asking, are you interested in renewing a parcel tax? Wouldn't you need to be presenting me like, I'm gonna ask for what? What is it gonna be used for? So I feel like we would need to be
maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like I would need to know as a resident what your ideas are, what the district's.
So the Mayor Jackson, you clarified, currently there's $1 million generated that we receive from the parcel tax a year.
Correct.
We want to be able to sustain that, so we have that within our general funds
Mhm.
moving forward beyond the 2 years when it expires. So at the very least, we want to maintain that $1 million revenue.
So then that's what we would be saying.
At
It's
the
because
very
this is how we use it currently and we want to sustain it.
I don't know,
Going
is there another
forward.
way of framing that?
I think that's right. I mean, I think for me, the construction one we just did is very tangible and maybe top of mind. But we asked folks, hey, if we were going to redo schools, we think we need this. Which of these resonate with you? And some of them, with all due respect, our executive director of technology scored not as high as we thought of it, right? So certain things, it allowed us to see, oh, we thought people wanted this. People actually wanted this. That's helpful both in terms of the planning for construction and also thinking about how we're advertising it and messaging. So it's, for us, I think it's been a very useful sort of dual purpose where it's not like we go in with like, this is exactly what we want. Let's sort of force it down people's throat. It's more, oh, we thought this, that was right, that was wrong, that was right, that was wrong. Let's actually sort of adjust course or overemphasize this and underemphasize things that the board thinks are important. Does that make sense?
But through the chair, we had a bond committee that discussed the questionnaire before it was sent out.
Certainly before the questionnaire was sent out, but I think that committee, frankly, was, and I'm trying to remember this, I don't have notes, but was formed after the contract for the survey was approved. Because until the survey contract is approved, the pollster is not going to join the committee to talk through the questions. So in some ways, we certainly could start a committee before this contract, but I think for the bond, we approved the contract. We then met for, I don't even know how long, at least 6 weeks to go over questions. And then the survey went out, but the pollster was there for those 6 weeks while we were kind of deliberating over questions because they had things for us to utilize.
So I am going to consider a motion for item number 8A to approve agreement with FM3 Research.
Through the chair, I actually have another question.
Okay,
Okay,
that's,
and the question is.
this will be the last, I'm just going to say this will be the last question and then we're going to move for a motion. And so if we approve, we approve. If we don't, we don't.
Yeah. Can it be the last question? I'm not sure it can, but my question is, do we need the survey? And I know we've done it in the past plenty of times. I'm just wondering, do we need the survey? What's the cost of putting something? What's the cost of all the effort of putting something on the ballot? And the only reason why I'm wondering is just, I was listening to trustee over here talk about good uses of money. And I wonder about how people respond to surveys versus how they respond to a vote. And if it actually aligns and how often, and how reliable it is. So I'm just wondering, like, what's the risk of not paying $30,000 for a survey and then going for the going for the parcel anyway? Just wondering.
It's obviously the board's decision about whether or not it's worth it. So I can only speculate, but the survey is going to be plus or minus, call it 6%, right? It's probably the error margins on the survey. The last 2 times they've been, last time they were on the money. And I think the time before they were off by 1 or 2%. So historically, they've been very, very accurate, this particular firm in this particular community. So it's actually, I think, been very helpful in terms of its accuracy. I also just think in terms of structuring the conversation of it is really hard aligning on the specific questions. And you have to work out a lot of what I think you're asking about and what Trustee Latu is asking about in advance of the survey actually going out. So I think from a process and a design thinking and an expertise support of here's exactly what this should look like, as well as the actual, 1,000 calls and emails and all of that can get things out. I think it's definitely worth it from a accuracy perspective, a structured thinking perspective, and then to some extent it's just a getting the message out perspective of it is reaching out to a large number of residents. So I think in the past the board's looked at and said that's kind of a slight amount. I think the risk and again it's a chunk of money. So The risk is it's a waste of money. And we would have been just as likely to get the same percentage, whether or not we had actually asked and used that structured thinking. I think with something like this, where it's different enough, there's to one extent no risk because we have a fail-safe election in 2026. And on the other hand, we look silly. We kind of land on our face. We put something out there that the five of you thinks a slam dunk idea, and it turns out you're a little bit off, and we sort of lose an election, so to speak, after winning the last 9, 8, right, with all the bonds. So I think that's the big risk, is that we could always lose. Right. So I think that's exactly, but I think that's the risk as I see it.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve item number 8A, the consideration to approve agreement with FM3 Research. It sounds like there is not going to be a motion made. So we can just reconvene if this is where we want to go, but I think that this needs to be something that everybody addresses with the superintendent in their one-on-one to talk about the timeline and what is necessary and what is not, and what we should be doing if we do choose to renew a parcel tax to make up the $1 million in our general fund that in 2026, right? That is not going to be there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next. Sorry, thank you. Thank you, guys. I'm going to move on to item number 9, which is the consideration to approve the proclamation resolution number 2022-2023-30, recognizing June 2023 as Pride Month in Ravenswood City School District.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Can you read the resolution for us?
Proclamation resolution number 2022-2023-30, recognizing June 2023 as LGBTQ+ History Month. Recognizing June 2023 as LGBTQ+ Pride Month in the Ravenswood City School District. Whereas the Ravenswood City School District proudly acknowledges its diverse lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community and remains unwavering in its commitment to fostering visibility, dignity, and equity for all individuals within our community. And whereas we recognize the value of the countless residents, students, family members, and dedicated school personnel who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning, as they contribute immensely to the enrichment of our schools. And whereas despite progress in achieving equitable treatment for LGBTQ+ individuals nationwide, discrimination against them persists solely based on their identity, compelling districts like the Ravenswood City School District to take a stand and demonstrate unwavering support for our affected students and families. And whereas numerous cities across the United States acknowledge and commemorate June as LGBTQ+ Pride Month, uniting to celebrate and champion the rights of LGBTQ+ individuals to embrace their authentic selves. And whereas June has become a symbolic month wherein LGBTQ+ individuals and allies come together in diverse pride celebrations, affirming their right to live openly and proudly. And whereas the rainbow flag, a cherished symbol of LGBTQ+ pride and social progress since the 1970s, signifies inclusivity and resilience within our community. And whereas hoisting the rainbow flag at the district office throughout June serves as a powerful testament to our celebration of diversity and unwavering support for LGBTQ+ students, families, and the entire school community. Now, therefore, let it be proclaimed that the Ravenswood City School District officially designates the month of June as LGBTQ+ Pride Month within our schools, inviting all members of our community to reflect on how we can foster an environment of mutual respect and understanding. And furthermore, our CSD demonstrates its commitment to Pride Month by proudly raising the rainbow flag at the district office and all school sites during the entirety of June 2023.
So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, abstain. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. We will move on to the next item, which is the consideration to approve the tentative agreement with Ravenswood Teachers Association.
Great. Yes, I'm proud to say that we've reached agreement with the Ravenswood Teachers Association, RTA. And the agreement includes the increase in the career salary ladder. And there have been updates to the evaluation procedures, and in the board agenda, you'll see the attachments of the calculations as well as the amended evaluation process. So the district used costing approach to calculate salary increases based on the expected increase in total district funding. This ensures that the cost of compensation, which includes the salaries, benefits, pension, associated costs, increases sustainably over the long term. So the estimated cost is provided also within the document. I think it's about $800,000 towards the salaries. This agreement assumes a 4.5% increase in funding for next year. The actual amount is yet to be determined by the state. If the actual amount exceeds the state's forecast, we will, which right now is hovering over 8%, just over 8%, both parties will agree to come together and revise the agreement accordingly. And so it is a recommendation that the board approves the tentative agreement with RTA.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
I have one quick question. The evaluation, the new C version, was that? Maybe I'll just ask the question offline. I'm just wondering why, was that put in just because it is a very rigorous evaluation, extremely rigorous, one of the most rigorous I've seen, which I think really speaks a lot to Ravenswood and what we expect and demand from our teachers. And they rise to that occasion every single day. Was that put in just because of the amount of time that it's involved? Because I saw that for the new thing, the new C path, that if a teacher elects to do the C path, there's only 1 step increase. Whereas the other 2 paths, it could be 1 through 5 step increases.
So the portfolio C represents the past practice we have done with the evaluation process in the past.
Okay.
And so teachers have that option to choose. But if they do that option, they don't have the opportunity, even though if they might score a summative score of 3 or higher, they don't have that opportunity to increase on the salary or the career ladder.
Okay, thank you. That answered my question.
Any other questions or comments from the public or? Okay. I will entertain a motion for item number 10, which is the consideration to approve the tentative agreement with Ravenswood Teachers Association.
I'd like to make a motion to approve item 10 to the consideration to approve the tentative agreement with RTA.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We'll move on to item number 11, which is disclosure from Ravenswood City School District regarding the initial proposals with the Classified School Employees Association chapter.
Great. So for item number 11, there are 2 sub items there that are informational, but item number 11, we're asking the board to take action to approve the disclosure from Ravenswood City School District regarding initial proposal of the Classified School Employees Association, so we can initiate negotiations focusing on wages and benefits.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? I will entertain a motion to open these items or to take action on item number 11. Item number 11.
Approving that we can go into negotiations with CSCA around wages and benefits. So there's some sunshining these articles, so we can begin negotiations.
So I will entertain a motion to sunshine these articles with CSEA.
Through the chair, I move to approve going into conversations with CSEA.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. All opposed? Any abstain? Nope, motion carries 5-0. Right,
Testing.
hello.
Test. Okay, the procedure I'm about to implement here is loud.
Okay.
So everybody just be prepared. I think it's working now, yeah.
Yes.
Official. Thank you.
All right.
Very technical.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item number 12. Award winning tech. We will move on to item number 12, the superintendent's report.
Awesome. Overall, Ravenswood is making progress in various areas from innovative grading practices to staffing and community engagement, ensuring a positive learning environment for students and a strong partnership with the community. So in the recent pilot of the mastery-based narrative report card for TK5 grades, a team of teachers found several benefits. It allows students to provide feedback on their own learning and helps parents understand their child's progress better. Additionally, it celebrates students' achievements without using letter grades and expands the concept of evidence of learning. There is some further work to be had, however, including involving more teachers in the next pilot and refining the report card's design and ensuring the inclusion of our visual and performing arts teachers as they see all the students in the school. In terms of hiring, and specifically administrators, the middle school assistant principal vacancy is close to being filled, completing the site administration team for the upcoming school year. So we should have all of our site administrators for the 23-24 school year. The extended school year program for special education will take place at Los Robles Ronald McNair this summer. As we've mentioned in the last board meeting, our summer program enrollment is underway with over 80% of our capacity being filled. The extended school year will have approximately 44 students, or I'm sorry, already 44 students have been enrolled. We still need staffing, so we will put out an announcement to our teachers where even general education teachers are able to support students with special needs as the program is 20 days. The Ravenswood Educator Summer Learning Institute that's being facilitated by Assistant Superintendent will offer professional development for teachers and paraeducators, focusing on creating a sense of belonging for students, understanding student needs, and planning for the start of the school year. The Institute will prioritize active learning and provide opportunities for teachers to put new ideas into practice. And efforts are underway to enhance family and community engagement, including conducting family feedback surveys. We've been canvassing families during drop-off and pickup as well, trying to catch parents who we typically do not hear from. And the district is also hosting enrollment info sessions and campus tours to attract prospective families. And then save the date for June 15th. We have a virtual year-end wrap-up for our partners. And that's scheduled again for June 15th. And we are asking them to fill out surveys by June 9th so that we can get information to celebrate and also learn how to improve our partnerships. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions or comments regarding the superintendent report? Nope. Thank you. We are going to move on to item number 13, which is the consideration to approve board policies for second reading and action. And so this is a motion to approve. So are there any questions or comments regarding this item? I will entertain a motion to approve to approve board policies for second reading and action.
The chair, I move to approve item 13.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We will move on to item number 14, which is the superintendent evaluation report. The board has discussed and evaluated Superintendent Sudario's performance regarding relationship with the Board of Trustees, core values and strategic priorities for the school year, academic administration, budgetary and fiscal management, communication, external relations and internal relations, decision-making and problem-solving, and personnel. And this board evaluated Superintendent Sudario on all of these categories and found her performance satisfactory in all the categories. So thank you. And I will move on now to item number 15, which is board reports and communication.
Through the chair, I have a board report. The city will be celebrating Juneteenth. So if you want more information, visit the city website. Also, the city will be celebrating 40 years of cityship July 1st. So there's going to be a parade and a lot of fun activities. So stay tuned for more. And I believe this is probably the last board meeting before majority of all the promotions will probably be happening. So I want to wish all of our school sites who are promoting a congratulations. For those returning back to our middle school, see you in a little bit. For those going to high school, well done.
Wonderful. I attended and watched the TK through 2 Los Robles Ronald McNair Academy spring concert. It was a lot of fun. The kids and the music teacher, Miss Kim, had a lot of fun and put on an amazing show. These are kids that there was a track playing before when we first started doing music at Los Robles, and you couldn't really hear the kids singing, and every single performance you could hear the children's voices. There was no track playing. So these kids are amazing. There was also a dance that the first graders did. They're just really, really great. And so that was really exciting. And I know that there have been lots of events, end of the year celebrations, performances. I think CCRMS hosted their concert yesterday at Bloomhouse. And so I think that also went well. I know our CCRMS jazz band received some awards at a competition in the last 2 weeks, I believe. So well done for all of the arts that is happening at all of our schools across the district. And it's been really exciting to see it live and to read about it and to hear and see the amazing work that our teachers and staff are putting into our children. Any other board reports?
Through the chair. First of all, I'd like to say that I was talking with a parent in my neighborhood who was all set to send their child to a charter middle school. And I told them about our middle school's mariachi band and our middle school's robotic program, and they changed their mind. So they're going up to CCRMS. On another note, it's kind of with a very mixed feelings that I am announcing that today was my last day of teaching. I have retired from education after 31 years. 19 of them spent here with the Ravenswood community, 15 in a classroom, and some of it as board member, some of it as a TOSA out of the classroom. It's been my distinct honor to spend the bulk of my career here in Ravenswood City School District. Continually impressed with how much we've grown since I came here 19 years ago. And so many people who are still here when I started, seeing Miss White sitting right in front of me. And I mean, I'm extremely honored to have been a part of this community. I want to give my appreciation and thanks to the community members who voted for me to be on your board. Again, I want to express my thank you for your confidence in me. As part of my retirement, I am moving out of the area. I'm moving out of state, which means that in August, there will be a board vacancy. So to anybody out in the community, if you are considering or would think about joining this incredible team, the most diverse board in the entire county, and I really want somebody from the county to acknowledge it publicly. So there it is. If you'd like to join the board here, please pay attention to board meetings upcoming and also to the website. There will be information posted on how the board seat will be, how the vacancy will be filled. I believe it will not be through election. It will be through appointment. So please keep your eyes and ears open. Please come to me with any questions you have. This is a huge step in my life. It's scary. And I'm really, really sad to say goodbye to everybody here. I wish that I'd been able to finish out my board term, but it just wasn't possible at this time. So that's my big news. And I got through it without any crying. Thank you. I will say there's something about having your last day of school, which was today for me, my last day of school.
Congratulations, Trustee Alexander. And we're not saying bye yet because this is not your last meeting. There are a few more board meetings that she will be here attending. So please stay tuned and we will make sure we give you a proper goodbye. But thank you for your service, for teaching for 31 years and so many of those years invested in the community of Ravenswood. We truly appreciate that. We hope you enjoy your last day of school. All right, I'm going to move on to item number 16, but we don't need that. And then we are going to move on to item number 17, which is the next regular board meeting will be held on June 8th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Open session will begin approximately at 7:15 p.m. I adjourn our board meeting. The Ravenswood regular board meeting is adjourned at 8:43 p.m.